What's up, everybody? Big Daddy J back today, and I'm actually going to do something I hadn't done yet since I started my channel. It's getting ideas from other channels, and something going on right now. I believe Craig over at All Movie Reviews and Brad at Bronco Juggalo, I think, started this, the 21 movies that everybody needs in their collection. When I first found out about this was on Project Ellsworth, John's channel. And I thought it was a good idea. Also seen it done on David's Horror, another great channel, a great list he put together. And these aren't particularly my all-time favorite movies. I mean, some of them are. I mean, there's a lot of them that are in my top 10 that are going to be on this list. But some of them aren't even in my top 20. But I think that they're important to have in your collection. I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean, I'm not picking all my all-time favorite movies. I do like them all. I enjoyed all of them that's going to be on this list. There's some that I thought about putting on here, but I didn't, for various reasons that I like more than I have than some of the ones that are going to be on this list. But here I am rambling, so yeah, let's just get into it. 21 movies that I think everybody should have in their collection. All right, starting out, I have Animal House. Came out in 1978. National Lampoon's, kind of their first huge, successful movie. Classic. Made John Belushi a household name. I believe it was Kevin Bacon's first movie ever. He was like 19 or 20 in this movie. Great movie. The first college frat comedy. It's pretty raunchy, but it was made in like 1978, but takes place in the early 60s, I believe, 1962. And like I said, I'm not going to keep this video real long. I'm not going to get the depth on these movies. Maybe one of these days I will. But great movie. If you don't have it, it needs to be in your collection for sure. Animal House. Check it out. Alright, next up I have Poultry Guys. Great movie. A PG horror movie. Came out in 1982. Most of you should probably already know about it. Starring Craig T. Nelson as the dad. Like I said, I'm not big time description in it, but if you've seen it, you know it's a great movie. A PG movie that can actually scare you. Great effects for the time. Directed by Tobe Hooper, and Steven Spielberg had a lot to do with the movie also. Just a great movie. If you haven't by chance living under a rock, hadn't seen this movie yet, you need to go out and get it, or at least watch it. Great movie, highly recommendable. Good horror movie from the 80s. So I have Dances with Wolves. I like to kind of mix it up on this list a little bit. Westerns, horror, action, sci-fi, all that stuff. But great movie. Kevin Costner, one of his best movies ever. You'll see him again on this list a little bit later on in another movie I have of his on here. But man, what can you say? An epic. Great soundtrack by John Barry. Kevin Costner, and they won a bunch of awards for this best director, best picture. It deserved all of it. If you haven't seen Dances with Wolves, go out and see it. Go buy it. It's a fantastic movie. Next up, I'm going to say The Exorcist. That first kind of paranormal movie that kind of brought that sort of horror into the mainstream, I think. Great movie. What else can be said about it? It was groundbreaking. It was just, I think, The Conjuring and Sinister, Insidious, all those movies owe a great deal of gratitude towards this movie and what it accomplished in 1973. Huge success, huge hit. Those kind of psychological horror movies are just, they're actually more terrifying to me than the slasher movies. I love slasher movies, but great movie. Okay, now we're transitioning into The Wizard of Oz, of all things. Like I said, it's not really in my top 20. I grew up with this movie, watched it every year, of course, had it on VHS. Love this movie. Like I said, it's not my top 20, but it's one of the classics of all time, iconic movie. Everybody knows The Wizard of Oz, pretty much quote lines from it. Yellow Brick Road, No Place Like Home. Great movie. Came out in 1939. Judy Garland, sorry. Just a fantastic movie, for the whole family. And it's even got some creepy elements in it, I think. It has a lot of horror elements, especially the Wicked Witch and her storyline. Kind of creepy. She was creepy as heck. She always scared me when I was a kid. So yeah, Wizard of Oz. Go out and get it. Another classic from 1960 is The Time Machine. H.G. Wells novel brought to the big screen. There was a remake made of it about 20 years ago, which wasn't bad, but it's nowhere near the greatness of this first one. I grew up as a kid. I love this movie. That's what got me into loving the whole concept of time travel. That's one of my favorite things to watch or read about. The idea of time travel. It's awesome. Starring Rod Taylor, a guy invented in the late 1890s, invented a time machine and just wanted to kind of get away from the time period that he was living in. Didn't like it and just wanted to go explore the future, basically, and got into all kinds of issues he ran into, this and that. But so if you haven't seen this, go check it out. I know probably a lot of people haven't really watched this because it's such an old movie. It's like 60 plus years old now. It came out in 1960, so Time Machine. Go out and watch that. Okay, next up is you could go Superman or Superman 2. Those are my two favorites from the old Superman movie. I have the 5 collection here, but you can't go wrong. Superman, Superman 2, or even Man of Steel if you'd like. But you have to have a Superman movie or a collection in your collection. Christopher Reeve will always be my Superman. So part 1 and 2 go hand in hand. You can watch them as a whole movie. They are actually pretty much filmed together in the late 70s. But yeah, Superman. Nothing else can be said. That's my boy. Actually, there we go. Yeah, birthmark. Jaws, another classic. Everybody afraid to go in the water after watching this one. Came out in 1975. Steven Spielberg's first big screen production. Made him an icon of the genre. Not genre, I should say, of directing. He does all kinds of movies, but Jaws, like I said, a lot of these movies you've seen, you've heard other people talk about. I can't add nothing but what you haven't already heard. So Jaws, go out and get it, go out and watch it. E.T. What can I say about this one? Another Steven Spielberg epic. Great family movie, groundbreaking. The effects and the story, and it's just a great movie. E.T. Phone Home. I said, a lot of these movies I can't really say much more about than what you've already heard or read about or seen or know yourself. Just like I said, E.T., another one that needs to be in your collection, for sure. Next up, I'm going to do Rambo. Now, I'm going to go with First Blood. Even though when I was growing up, Part 2 was like my favorite of them all. I watched it, but as I got older, I appreciated the first one, First Blood, a lot more than I did when I was a little kid because it was more of a character study of the effects of a Vietnam veteran coming back home and being rejected by society and kind of being a loner and an outsider and him fighting back against the establishment. So now, if I did a Rambo ranking, which I might do one day, it would be my number 1 in my Rambo movies. Great movie. Sylvester Stallone hit it out of the park after he'd done some of the Rocky movies. This came out in 1982, so around the time like Rocky 3 came out in that time period also. So he's already well established into the Rocky franchise as an icon. But what who else can say? Not very many other actors can say that they brought to life 2 movie icons. Rocky and Rambo. And that was Sylvester Stallone. Great job. Great performance. Great movie. Just it's awesome. First Blood. Go check it out. Awesome. Okay, next up, Glory. Now, if you haven't seen Glory, this came out in 1989. It's about the first African-American regiment in the Civil War. Yeah, man, it's awesome. Starring Matthew Broderick, Carrie Elwes, Morgan Freeman, and Denzel Washington. Denzel actually won the Best Supporting Actor for 1989 for this movie. Great soundtrack. One of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Just a great movie, a true story, like I said, about that regiment and what they did, what they sacrificed, and how it ended. It's just, oh man, great movie. This movie's actually in my top 10 of all time for sure. Fantastic movie. Go out and see it if you haven't even heard of it or haven't seen it yet. Just go out and watch this movie. You won't be disappointed. Very well acted, directed, everything. It's a perfect movie in my opinion. Glory. Love this movie. All right. Another one, Forrest Gump. Another classic. I have the slipcover on this one. I haven't watched this actual one yet. I had it on regular standard definition. Got this sometime last year. I can't remember when. It's been a while, but I haven't pulled it out of the plastic yet. But it's a anniversary edition, I believe. It's the 25th anniversary. Yes, I'm sorry. Another one, classic. I think it's one of, if not Tom Hanks' greatest performance, greatest movie he's ever done. He's got a few up there close by, but I think that's his best performance. It's such an icon. Talk about lines from a movie that are quoted all the time to this day. It came out in 1994, so now it's 27 years old, and it's just relevant today as it was when it came out. You can watch it and just enjoy it and lose yourself in Forrest Gump's world. Such a great movie. Gary Sinise co-star, Sally Field. Yeah, I mean, we're like peas and carrots. Next up, another fantastic movie in my top 10 of all time, Red Dawn. You gotta have this in your collection. The original one from 1984, starring Patrick Swayze, C. Thomas Howell, Charlie Sheen actually in it too, Leah Thompson. It's I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's about the fictional World War III starting with like Cuba and Russia joining up to kind of invade America, taking over about half the country, and then these guys get this group of mostly high school kids led by Patrick Swayze. He was not in high school, but he's leading them in the mountains of Colorado, I believe it was, just kind of doing engaging in guerrilla warfare against the Cubans and the Russians, and go from there. It's just a great story, very patriotic. Something like that happened, you want to think or hope that you would feel the same way. Somebody invading your home, you're going to fight for it and try to disrupt whatever that you can just to get your freedom back. So, great movie. Love this movie. Awesome. Another one, Tombstone. Great Western here. I couldn't decide to put this one or like Young Guns Part 1 and 2 on this list. I went with Tombstone, a little bit more mainstream. The story of OK Corral, but more OK Corral is part of the story, and it takes place in Tombstone, but it's a lot more about the Earps and especially Doc Holliday's and Wyatt Earp's friendship in it. Great performances by Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp, Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday. You got late great Bill Paxton as Morgan Earp, and Virgil Earp was played by Sam Elliott. Great movie. What can I say? Another classic. Came out in 1993, I believe. And yeah, go watch it if you haven't. Great Western from the 90s. You won't be disappointed. Alright. Die Hard. I've got the Blu-ray collection, but I'm speaking mainly of the first Die Hard. The very first Die Hard. That's another one. Most of my top 10s are on this list. Couldn't help not put them in there. Made Bruce Willis a megastar. Every man's action hero, kind of. It wasn't all. It didn't have all the big glistening muscles from the 80s like you see with Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the likes of those guys. Even Jean-Claude Van Damme, kind of muscular martial arts. Now this guy was like, made you feel like you could do this. You could go in there and just bust some ass up, and and just the will to survive and go all out. It's I can't say much about this, but pure perfection. Now, this is another, to me, a perfect movie, Die Hard. It has one of the greatest villains in film history, Hans Gruber, played by the late, great Alan Rickman. Die Hard. Go check it out. All right. Okay, I talked about another Kevin Costner movie to be on this list, and that's Field of Dreams. Sports movie, but it's a sports movie, sort of, but it's also kind of like a family, kind of not coming of age, but a search for acceptance or the wanting of, I don't know, I'm trying not to give it away if you haven't seen it, but basically it's Kevin Costner, he's an Iowa farmer, starts having these voices start popping in his head one night, talking about if you build it, he will come, or they will come, or whatever. He keeps hearing these voices off and on for a while, and he sees a vision of a baseball field out in this cornfield. So he does a crazy idea, goes out there and builds a baseball field, and from there on, it's really good. He gets visits from former, ghost baseball players, dead baseball players. That's as far as I'm gonna go with that. But man, such an awesome movie. Yeah, it'll give you tears, especially at the end. You'll get teary-eyed, happy tears. Great movie, full of dreams. Halloween. I couldn't go without this list without putting Halloween in here. Everybody, if you start out just starting to watch horror, maybe trying to get into horror, this is one of the ones you need to start out with. It's not too gory or anything. There's not really any blood in it, but it's a nice slow burn, atmospheric, a theater of the mind. Yeah, it's great. It's, the boogeyman was born from this movie. But yeah, Halloween, great movie. Not gonna go into it. You all know what I'm talking about. You can't go wrong with it. It's gotta be in any list of movies you need for your collection. Alright, we're getting down close to the end here. Back to the Future. This is actually a trilogy set, but of course, I'm talking about the original Back to the Future. That's in my top 5 movies of all time. It's starring Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd. You know it. You know the soundtrack. Another movie with quotable lines in it. Great performances by Fox and Lloyd. You've got Leah Thompson. Crispin Glover playing George McFly, Marty's dad. It's great. This movie never get old. I have to watch this at least twice a year, if not more. Sometimes my wife and I will binge the trilogy in one day. We'll do that. At least we'll do that together once a year. That's a once a year thing for us. We've talked about doing it pretty soon again because it's about that time. But yeah, Back to the Future. Back to the Future 2, though, in my opinion, is almost as good as the first one. Not quite, but I love the second one almost as much as the first one. But you gotta go with the first one. Classic of all time. Alright. But Star Wars. My favorite is Empire Strikes Back. You can put that one or Star Wars, the original Star Wars, A New Hope it's called now, on this list. So you can do either one of them. But I guess you can just go ahead and put Star Wars because it started this whole phenomenon. My favorite movie franchise in history. I love Star Wars. Love it, love it, love it. It was a big part of my life growing up. Still is. I got, if you've seen in some of my video collection videos, you've seen me with quite a few Star Wars collectibles, and autograph from Peter Mayhew that played the original Chewbacca. But yeah, it's just Star Wars. What can you say? That hadn't been said. Star Wars. Yeah. All right. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Now, this and Empire Strikes Back, a lot of times we'll go back and forth as what's my favorite, because I do love Star Trek, the franchise. Not as much. It's close behind Star Wars. My love for Star Trek. Grew up with Star Trek. My dad and my mom, they love Star. They watched it, and so I watched when I was a kid growing up. I'd see all the reruns on TV. Then we got into VHS, and so I think we had almost all of them collected on VHS when I was growing up in the late '80s, early '90s. Yeah, but Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and now Dawn of the Dead, my all-time favorite horror movie. It's in my top 5 movies of all time. I'll never leave that. It means a lot to me. I got into horror when I was very young. I'm 43 right now, but yeah, my parents let me watch horror movies. I was like 3 or 4, 5 years old. I was watching horror movies, and this one, along with like American Werewolf in London, some Halloween movies, Friday the 13th, just Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even that they didn't shield me from anything, which I'm grateful for now. I mean, nothing wrong with that. But this one I always we had this on VHS. I've watched this constantly, man. I've probably seen this movie 500 or more times in my life. Never gets old, never gets boring. If you haven't seen it, it's a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. Came out 10 years afterwards, in 1978. The effects, Tom Savini did the effects and the makeup on this movie. The zombies are kind of a little outdated looking, but the effects of the gore part of the people getting ripped apart, the guts and the blood and brains getting shot out, it was ahead of its time for the 70s. So a lot to this movie. Absolutely fantastic movie. Dawn of the Dead, 1978. Cannot go wrong with it. And so yeah, that's it. That's my 21 movies that I think people should have in their collections. Might not be, some of them might not be in my all-time top 20, but there are movies that are, I think, important. A lot of them, and that's why I picked a few of the ones that I did that aren't even in my top 20. But it's, that's kind of how I felt the best way to do this video, because there's so many other videos I could do with, and I might start doing something that's kind of giving me an idea of doing some future videos of what I think people should have in their collection. So I might start doing this a little more often. Get a group of movies together and just kind of talk about them, what their importance are to me, and I think the world of cinema. So hope I didn't butcher this too much. Like, subscribe if you like what you see, and everybody just be careful out there in this crazy world we're living in now, and peace out. Big Daddy J out.